And a very pleasant good Saturday to you. This is Reverend Phil Anderson here, pastor of Oakland United Methodist Church in Kansas Avenue, United Methodist Church here in the capital city of Topeka, Kansas, good old T-Town. We are at the weekend edition of Fresh Bread. Before we go any farther, if you're hearing this early in the day, remember 9 a.m. to noon today, Saturday, July 29th, 2023, we'll be having our ministry open house at Kansas Avenue, United Methodist Church, 1029 North Kansas Avenue. This is for anyone that wants any information about the things we're doing, as well as any of the details about what's going to be going on down the road. And also, we'll be looking at some of the requirements through Safe Gatherings for those involved in hands-on ministry. We want you to be there. And again, we hope to see you this day from 9 a.m. to noon at Kansas Avenue. We'll have some refreshments. Do come. It'll be a great time. Well, let's finish up here as we look at 1 Peter chapter 1. We're looking at the introduction. So here's a little bit more about that we've been talking about the last few days. And so now here we go with the continuation and conclusion now of the introduction of 1 Peter. It is true, however, that the Greek of 1 Peter is good literary Greek, and even though Peter could no doubt speak Greek, as so many in the Mediterranean world could, it is unlikely that he would write such polished Greek. It's precisely at this point that Peter's remark in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 12, concerning Silas may be significant. Here the apostle claims that he wrote with the help of, or maybe more literally, through or by means of Silas. Now, this phrase cannot refer merely to Silas as a letter carrier. Thus, Silas was the intermediate agent in writing. And some have claimed that Silas's qualifications for recording Peter's letter in literary Greek are found in Acts chapter 15, verses 22 to 29. It is known that a secretary in those days often composed documents in good Greek, and those who did not have the language facility to do so. Thus, in 1 Peter, it's possible that Silas's Greek may be seen, while in 2 Peter, it may be Peter's rough Greek that appears. Now, some also maintain that the book reflects a situation that did not exist until after Peter's death, suggesting that the persecution referred to in 1 Peter 4:14 to 16, and then again in 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 8 to 9, is descriptive of Domitian's reign, which was from AD 81 to 96. However, the situation that was developing in Nero's time in 54 to 68 AD is just as adequately described by those verses. Now, the book can be satisfactorily dated in the early 60s. It cannot be placed earlier than 60 because it shows a familiarity with Paul's prison letters, including Colossians and Ephesians, which are to be dated no earlier than 60 AD. Furthermore, it cannot be dated later than 67, 68, since Peter was martyred during Nero's reign. Now, the place of writing could be found from verses in 1 Peter 5:13, where he indicates that he was in Babylon when he wrote 1 Peter. Although the number of other possibilities have been proposed, an Egyptian Babylon, which was then a Roman military post, a Mesopotamian Babylon, still occupied, but not by many Jews, according to Josephus, and Jerusalem, symbolically called Babylon. The long-held tradition that Peter was referring to Rome is still the most likely and most widely held view today. Now, let's look at the theme here before we close today. That although many theological themes are woven throughout this work, the central theme, and one that the author repeatedly returns to, is the exhortation to stand firm in the faith to stand firm in the faith in the face of suffering and persecution. Every chapter refers to suffering, and the ultimate example of righteous suffering is Christ himself. Now, Peter also says that he has written to this book to encourage you and testify that this is the true grace of God. The letter includes a series of exhortations found in chapter 1, verse 13 through chapter 5, verse 11. So again, that's the story of 1 Peter. We hope to be able to dive into this next week and look at it on a verse-by-verse basis. And it may take us a while because we like to intersperse some of these fresh breads with things going on in the church, just announcements, just maybe a little conversation. And we may take a few days or even a week or two off here and there. But our plan now is to start with 1 Peter. My encouragement to you is to read through the book of 1 Peter. It is, in my Bible, only 8 pages long, and in that section, about half of each page is filled with notes. So it should be about a 10, 12-minute read for you. Let's make sure we all read 1 Peter before next week, and then we'll get into it together next week, God willing. Well, if you're hearing this again on Saturday morning, make sure if you can make it to our I should say our ministry open house. It'll be from 9 a.m. to noon at Kansas Avenue United Methodist Church. That's at 1029 North Kansas Avenue. And we'd love to have you there. We'll have some refreshments. It'll be a good time. I think it'll be a great, beneficial time for us to get all on the same page and to have any questions discussed. And hopefully we have a few answers for you as well. And then don't forget Sunday's services. We have Sunday school at 8:45 with worship following at 9:30 a.m. Sundays at Oakland United Methodist Church, 801 Northeast Chester, in the Oakland area of Northeast Topeka, Kansas. And then don't forget our 9:30 a.m. Sunday School and 11 a.m. worship service on Sundays at Kansas Avenue United Methodist Church. That's at 1029 North Kansas Avenue in the North Topeka Archdistrict of North Topeka, Kansas. Thank you again so much for joining with us today as we looked at some of the things that are going to be coming up, as we looked at kind of an introduction in the book of 1 Peter. And we hope to see you in church tomorrow, if not even today, at the ministry open house. And also don't forget to join us again next week as we really begin to dive into the book of 1 Peter. Until then, God bless you. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.